yeah, it's easy to forget that, yeah, oh, God does care about your sex life. And yes, there is purpose. And
Yeah.
yes, you might have a story that's not how you thought it would be,
Mm-hmm.
but that can be a testimony that changes lives. Hi there, you're listening to the Kingdom Sexuality podcast. We're Alana, Kyle, and Tiera, friends who have a heart for intimacy and long to uncover God's truth and design for sexual freedom within marriage. If you enjoy listening to our episodes or like our content over on Instagram, would you consider leaving a review or subscribing? It really helps. Welcome here.
We are back for another episode of the Kingdom Sexuality podcast. I'm Tiera, and today I am joined by Alana, my favorite girl co-host. Kyle isn't with us today, so you're just going to get the two of us. And we're just going to
Ladies only.
Yeah, we're going to do a shout out to all of our patrons who are listening. We really appreciate having you guys. You get to vote on show episodes. You get a bunch of free stuff. We tell you ahead of time some of the upcoming things. So you get to stay in the know before everybody else. And it's a way for you to support us, honestly. So we love that people are there, and you can visit us at patreon.com/kingdomsexuality. And of course, we have our other platforms too, our Instagram page, lots of fun and laughs and encouragement, and our Facebook group, which is just full of conversations and comments. And if you haven't joined, I can pretty much guarantee it'll cause some big eyes as you read some of the stuff. But it's really good and helps us to remember that talking about sex is okay. And, we're not sharing every single detail that happens, but the more that you are listening to other people talk about it, the more it feels like, oh, okay, maybe this isn't such a taboo thing to talk about. So highly recommend. Come join us in the Facebook group. Yeah. Okay, the verse for today is Isaiah 62, verse 5. As a bridegroom rejoices over his bride, so will your God rejoice over you. So I was in charge of prepping this episode today, and as I was praying about it, I was like, God, how do we talk about you and sex together? How do you guys go together? I mean, obviously we know, God created sex, and so he's author of it. And so of course he should go hand in hand with it. But I felt like it would be nice to see maybe some practical examples. What does it look like in an everyday marriage? And so I came up with a few fictitious stories of some different couples and their issues that they were having, and just how when they bring God into it, it helped turn things around for them. And so it's my hope that you can, in a way, I hope you don't relate to these marriages because they had issues going on. But I do hope that if you do see yourself in one of these stories, you can see the redemptiveness that God has, and that he cares about your sex life, that this is a big deal. So it's just going to be me reading for quite a bit of this episode. So hopefully you don't
Sit back,
mind listening to me, but here's to story time. So this is story 1. John and Sarah had always had a great relationship. They were best friends, completely in sync when they first got married. But after 10 years, 2 kids, and demanding careers, the intimacy had taken a hit. Most nights, they collapsed into the bed, exhausted, barely having enough energy to say goodnight, let alone connect physically. Okay, I'm just going to pause because as I'm saying this, I'm reminded of I can't remember what the show was called, but in the trailer for the show, it's this couple who has, I think they have 3 kids. The 2 are twins and they're like toddlers, and it shows them coming onto bed. And they still have all their clothes on and everything, and they tackle each other, they kiss, and then they just like both fall asleep, like in the middle of doing it's like, that's so relatable, like you really want to, you just don't have enough energy to. Anyway,
there's no gumption.
a caveat there. Okay, so this is where this couple's at, barely having enough energy to say goodnight. Sarah often felt guilty, thinking, oh, I should want this more. But by the time the kids were asleep and the laundry was folded, all she wanted to do was rest. And John, on the other hand, felt lonely and disconnected. He missed the closeness they once had, and over time, resentment started creeping in. One night, after another week of avoiding the topic, they finally sat down to talk. I feel like we're just coexisting, John admitted. I miss us, but I don't want you to feel pressured. Sarah sighed in relief, realizing John didn't just want sex, he wanted connection. I miss us too, she whispered. Together, they prayed about it for the first time, asking God to help them prioritize their marriage. They realized that they had been treating intimacy as just another task instead of the gift God intended it to be. They started small, just holding hands more, flirting throughout the day, and setting aside intentional time for each other, even if it meant scheduling intimacy like they would any other priority. Slowly, the connection returned, and they found that by inviting God into this area, they were able to love each other more selflessly and intentionally. Um, yeah, so I feel like this can easily happen to so many
Yes.
couples, especially after having kids. And we often forget that God cares about that area of our life, right? Like
Yep.
for this couple, they prayed about it for the first time ever.
Yeah.
Sex was fine, it was good, and then all of a sudden it wasn't, and you forget that it's not God in all of our life except behind the bedroom door. Like no,
Yes.
it's important to ask him to come in and help you. And you can ask him for ideas. You can ask him to point you in the right direction for resources or the right mentor couple, maybe.
Yeah.
Or so just highlighting the fact that bringing God into the bedroom and asking for help from him can be the start of making a difference. Obviously, this wasn't like a miraculous, like boom, all of a sudden they had passionate intimacy. No, it still took work. It still took all those little things intentionally doing together. But when you come as a husband-wife team going to your maker and saying, hey, we need help, it creates that team like atmosphere instead of like, oh, you still don't want to do it, or
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's good.
Okay, story number 2. Lisa grew up in a very conservative Christian home where the topic of sex was avoided entirely. The only messages she ever received were warnings: save yourself for marriage, and good girls don't talk about those things. She believed that she was honoring God by staying pure. But after marrying David, she realized she didn't know how to embrace sex in a healthy way. Every time David initiated intimacy, Lisa felt a pang of guilt. It wasn't that she didn't love him, she did, but something inside her felt uncomfortable and ashamed. She worried that if she enjoyed sex too much, she'd be doing something wrong. David tried to be patient, but over time, he felt like Lisa was distant, and he started to wonder if she found him unattractive. One evening, after Lisa turned him down again, David gently asked, "Is something wrong? Did I do something?" Tears welled up in Lisa's eyes, and she finally opened up about the deep-seated shame she carried. David listened, held her, and assured her that God's design for intimacy was good and beautiful. That night they prayed together, asking God to renew Lisa's mind and replace the lies that she believed with his truth. Lisa began reading books about God's design for sex and slowly allowed herself to embrace the truth that intimacy within marriage is a blessing, nothing to be ashamed of. Through open communication, patience, and God's grace, Lisa's heart began to heal. She learned to see sex not as something forbidden, but as a way to deepen their connection and honor God. Over time, Lisa and David found freedom and joy in their intimacy like never before. And again,
I feel like this is my story.
Yeah, you tell me your thoughts on this.
Yeah, no, it's so good. Like, I think it's one of those things where even with the first story you told, and even just thinking about like sex in general, and where is God in that story of just sex and within a couple? I've heard it before, and I don't know if I'm saying it quite correctly, but like God created the body and the person, but the devil slapped on the genitals, right? Like, have you ever heard that?
No, but
right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And so there's this huge disconnect between our body and our person,
Yeah,
and our genitals, because those are the dark, scary secrets that the devil slapped on to tempt us and make us feel ashamed and whatever. So yeah, I think this is great. If this is your story, you're not alone. This is not just you. This is a lot of us, and there is healing and there is freedom.
Yeah.
And I think it's consciously having to realize that, oh, wow, I am experiencing shame. This isn't what God designed sex to be. What did he create this to be? And how can I be putting things in my life to remind me of the plans that God has had for this, right? Like,
Yeah.
I know Dr. Julie Slattery has talked about it as a covenant renewal ceremony,
Oh.
like thinking of sex like that, of, you're re-saying your
Oh, yeah,
vows
yeah.
to one
Yeah.
another. And this is like a reflection of Christ in the church. And so then when you think about it like that, you're like, well, yeah, of course God and sex mesh,
Mhm.
because, it's so much more than just sex, and it's so much more than just bodies mashing together. Like there's so much connection happening
Mhm.
within in these two people, this couple, right, within the
Yeah.
marriage. And so anyways, I think, yeah, it's easy to forget that, yeah, oh, God does care about your sex life. And yes, there is purpose. And
Yeah.
yes, you might have a story that's not how you thought it would be,
Mhm.
but that can be a testimony that changes lives.
Yeah. You're a good example of that,
Boom.
right?
Wow. Yeah, full circle.
If you
That
don't
was
know
great.
Alana's story, you can just go listen to a few episodes ago, a few weeks ago, that said the why behind this, and she
Right.
shares her sextimony, as we call it here. I like how she replaced the lies she had believed with his truth. Right, that's
Mm-hmm.
that renewing of your mind that the Bible talks about. And I think, after years of having that shame narrative, even though it's not classified as shame, it does have that underlying tone, and it's not going to be an overnight switch. Just
Yeah.
like the last story, it wasn't an overnight switch either for them. But if I could use a word, like it's kind of like a brainwashing that happened then, right? Like it takes a while to get over that, and now you can brainwash with good.
Mm-hmm.
So, by reading books, by finding things, listening to more of our podcasts, going on Instagram, just having that constant wave of a safe place, showing that sex is a good thing and that's what God
Mm-hmm.
created it to be, can really help undo all of those years of lies. I mean, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not like full lies, but it's the
Yes. Yeah.
undertone of them, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And thinking more about this too, I've heard it recently where, and it's related to something different, but you'll see how it connects. So, like with fitness and like
Mhm.
your diet and things like that, um, it doesn't, like when a person is like not content with their body, it's
Mhm.
not because just it happened in one day that you
Yeah.
ate this or you stopped working out. It's like over time,
Mhm.
cumulatively, oh my word, um, it adds up. And then you're like,
Yeah.
oh, well, okay, now I'm working out. I ate celery today, so now I should be better. It's like, well,
Mhm.
no. So now it takes, it took this many years to get to where you are today. Now it'll take this many,
Yeah.
this much work to get to where you are or where you want to be. And so
Totally.
I think thinking about it like that, to know that, okay, no, there's been years of things going into your brain, creating this perception of sex. And
Yeah.
so just, I mean, as much as we hope and pray that it will flip a switch and magically change, and for some people maybe it does, and maybe there is
Yeah.
that, and praise
Yeah.
God,
God can do that. Yeah.
totally. But it could also take time, and
Mhm.
just to understand that if it is taking time and you're like, man, why isn't this changing for me already, just have patience, have grace, have people
Yeah.
to be around you to encourage you in it, and to be speaking that life and the truth that God has over sex, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next story. Matt and Rachel had always been passionate about serving others, whether it was leading Bible studies, volunteering at church events, or mentoring young couples. They poured their hearts into ministry. From the outside, they looked like the perfect team, always smiling, always available, always willing to serve. But behind closed doors, their marriage told a different story. They were so focused on pouring into each other's that they had wait, they were so focused on pouring into others that they had little left for each other. Their sex life had become almost non existent, pushed to the bottom of the priority list in favor of meetings, late night planning, and constant availability to their church community. Rachel felt drained and unfulfilled, but she convinced herself it was just a season and that serving God came first. Matt, meanwhile, struggled with feelings of frustration and loneliness, wondering why their marriage felt more like a business partnership than a loving union. One night, after a long church event, Rachel noticed a tiredness in Matt's eyes. "What's wrong?" she asked. Matt hesitated before responding. "I feel like we're giving our best to everyone else, and there's nothing left for us. I miss you." His words hit Rachel hard, and for the first time in a while, they both admitted they had been neglecting each other. They prayed together that night, asking God to help them realign their priorities. Through prayer and honest conversations, they realized that their marriage was their first ministry, and that intimacy was a vital part of staying connected, refreshed, and able to serve others well. Matt and Rachel made some intentional changes. They set boundaries around their ministry work, protecting time for date nights and intimacy. They committed to praying together about their marriage, not just their ministry. They began to see intimacy as a way God replenished their energy and strengthened their union, which in turn made them better leaders and mentors. As their intimacy improved, so did their ability to serve with joy and authenticity. They found themselves more energized, unified, and able to pour into others from a place of overflow rather than exhaustion. Their marriage became a testimony to others, not because they were perfect, but because they were willing to prioritize each other and trust God's design for intimacy. So I really liked this one because this one I feel like can sneak in and you not even notice. Right? Like, because it was being replaced by something that was noble. Right. Well, they were doing God's work. They were doing all the right things, being involved in all the right things, listening to the pastor saying, be involved, get it, volunteer, do all these things. And so, yeah, they all of a sudden noticed, like, wait a sec, this is actually draining. And how when they prioritized their marriage and God and included sex in that, they ended up having even more ability to serve, not necessarily time, but when they did serve, it was better, and serving from a place of overflow rather than exhaustion.
We've talked about before how like when you're not having sex, when there's like spans of time where you're in a bit of a slump and it's just not happening, you can feel that friction. Like you can feel that things are kind of off, or there's just something is different, and it's like you can't quite lay a finger on it, but there's like miscommunication happens more easily. Like it's just, you're more prone to, like, I don't know what it is, but it's just that deep connection and what it is, right? And like that bonding when you do have sex, that when you don't have it, there's a lack.
Yeah.
And so I think it would bleed into other areas of your life, versus when you're being intentional about loving and serving each other. Yeah. You feel that connection. So you feel safe in all other areas.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So last story here. Emily loved her husband, Mark, and she loved their marriage, but there was just one area that left her feeling frustrated and even a little hurt: their sex life. She had always thought that husbands were supposed to be the ones with the higher sex drive, but in their marriage, it was the opposite. Emily desired intimacy more often than Mark did, and when he wasn't interested, she felt rejected and undesirable. Over time, her frustration grew. She started wondering, is there something wrong with me? Am I too much? And worse, does he not find me attractive anymore? Mark, on the other hand, felt overwhelmed by pressure. He loved Emily, but between work stress, household responsibilities, and just the busyness of life, intimacy wasn't always on his mind. He often felt guilty for not matching her desire and sometimes withdrew to avoid disappointing her. One night, after another unspoken tension over intimacy, Emily finally opened up. I don't want to make you feel bad, but I feel disconnected from you, she said gently. When you're not interested, I can't help but feeling like I'm not enough. Mark sighed and took her hand. It's not that I don't love you or find you attractive. Sometimes I just feel tired and distracted, and I don't always know how to switch gears. That night they prayed together, asking God to help them understand and love each other better in this area. Through prayer and conversation, they realized their differences didn't mean something was wrong with their marriage. They just needed to approach intimacy with a fresh perspective. Mark began making more intentional efforts to connect emotionally with Emily, understanding that physical intimacy was an important way that she felt loved. In turn, Emily learned to appreciate the ways Mark showed love outside the bedroom through his support, kindness, and daily acts of service. They also started finding creative ways to bridge the gap, planning special moments together without pressure, exploring ways to show affection outside of sex, and being more patient with each other's needs and limitations. Over time, their intimacy grew stronger as they embraced selflessness, patience, and grace. They learned that their sex life wasn't meant to look like anyone else's, but could thrive in a way that worked uniquely for them. Yeah. So I feel like the mismatched desires is often one that we get
Yeah.
questions about, and it's a hard one, you know. But this is another area where asking God to come in and help, and actually having a conversation about it. And, there are little steps that you can take to, I don't want to say combat it, because it's not, but to understanding each other. And again, just having that teamwork mentality and praying about it and asking God, your makers, what to do.
And like, I'm pretty sure, what are the stats? Like 90% of couples have differing drives. Like this is like, it's very, very uncommon for people to have exactly the same sex drive.
Yeah.
And we get messages all the time from women who are in the same scenario as, what was her name again? Emily. And they feel so alone, and they feel like no one else is like this.
Yeah.
But please know you're not alone. And there are so many women who feel the same way and are navigating this.
Yeah.
And so I think, just having a posture of, okay, this is something we can navigate together as a team. I like how you put it as a teamship. It's not like me versus you. It's not you need to adjust yourself to match and meet my needs. It's like, okay, we need to work at this as a couple and figure out what's going to work. How are we going to compromise? How are we going to adjust to make it something that we both are excited about? And so not one person is feeling rejected constantly.
Yeah.
Whether you're a woman with a higher drive or a woman with a lower drive. Like a husband with a higher drive doesn't like to be rejected all the time either. We all want to feel valued and loved and desired. Totally. And so, having a conversation about it is going to be key, and being willing to hear what your spouse has to say. And if there's more going on, maybe there's more going on and we need to seek out counseling. We need to check hormone levels or things like that. There are steps that can be taken. But step number one is going to be to talk about it together. Yeah.
Yeah. And we do have episodes on that. Yeah. The opposite series, I think, talks about the opposite drives. So again, those stories are just shared so that you could see how God plays a role in sex, in our relationships. He designed sex. It wasn't an accident or an afterthought. Like he designed it on purpose. He meant it to be fun and to be this incredible gift in marriage, bringing like, there's no other act like it that brings you that close in all the different categories. So let's just, wanted to take a look at the Bible for a bit and just go over what it says about sex. Sex is meant to bring you and your spouse closer. So in Genesis 2:24, that is why a man leaves his father and mother and is united to his wife, and they become one flesh. So literally that it's intended and not just to procreate. Sure.
Right. Sorry. Not just to procreate. Sex is a gift to be enjoyed, not just for making babies. May your fountain be blessed, and may you rejoice in the wife of your youth, a loving doe, a graceful deer. May her breast satisfy you always. May you ever be intoxicated with her love. Proverbs 5:18-19.
Yep. So those breasts just aren't there for breastfeeding.
No.
That's a great verse to prove that it's to be enjoyed. Yeah. Sex is meant to be pure and honoring. Within marriage, sex is something sacred and beautiful, not shameful or dirty. So Hebrews 13:4 says marriage should be honored by all, and the marriage bed kept pure.
Sex reflects deep love and intimacy. Song of Solomon 6:3 says, I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. If you want more Bible verses just specific to sex, go read Song of Solomon, and you will find many a verse talking about just the pleasure of sex and the delight in each other's bodies, and that it's so much more than just making babies and whatever. It's enjoying yourself together. Yeah. Like drink deep of your love, right? Like it's good.
Yeah. The book that we always recommend, Awaken Love by Ruth Buzis. Still can never get her last name. she has a study that goes along with the
Mm.
book. So you can, it's actually really, really great. If you have a group of women, it's just for women. If you have a group of women who you want to do this study with, I highly recommend it. It will definitely bring you all closer, and get real deep. And anyway, in that study, they kind of do a deep dive into Song of Solomon and the interpretations of what different things mean. And I am terrible at poetry. There's so much where I'm reading, I'm like, this doesn't really. I mean, I get kind of what they're saying, but hearing some of the stuff, it doesn't make sense. And so she breaks it down, and even there's one passage where it talks about how I forget. I should have looked it up before. But it's talking about the ivory and how basically how big and strong it is. And she's like, actually, the tone of this and the particular word choice and everything is talking about his penis. Like, she's actually talking about how good and strong it is. Like, yeah, there's something about, like, yeah, if you're wanting to see sex in the Bible, it's definitely there. It's may be a bit hidden. You might need to find it and go into a commentary to see everything. But it really is a beautiful thing that God intended for, both the husband and wife to fully enjoy.
Yeah.
Sex is about giving, not just getting. So 1 Corinthians 7:3 says, a husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife, and likewise the wife to her husband. So yeah, it's both a mutual give and get. And then I wanted to talk about some lies or misconceptions about God and sex. And the first one kind of ties into what I was just saying, that sex is just for men. I know we all don't think that, but I think there's that maybe underlying thing of, like, oh, women just are there to help fulfill a need, and big lie right there. Definitely not. Sex is both for husband and wife. God created it to be mutually satisfying. And like I said, the Song of Solomon, going through those and seeing how much the wife desired him, it's definitely in there. There's also with King David and Bathsheba, when their first son dies, King David goes, and it says he comforts Bathsheba and lays with her. And it was like that was his form. That was their form of comfort. Like it had a purpose. It wasn't to create a baby, although it did. The point was that there was something there to help comfort her. So it's definitely sex is for both husband, wife.
That's good. All right. Another myth or lie about sex is that sex is dirty or shameful.
Yeah.
God created it to be a pure and beautiful thing within marriage.
Yeah.
And so, kind of like we said earlier, it can be difficult to flip the switch, if that's put in your mindset. But know that God created it to be something that is beautiful and not icky and dirty and whatever.
Good Christians don't talk about sex.
Whoops.
Yeah. Yeah, we know that's not true. Of course, there are boundaries. You're not going to share every single intimate detail, but it is good to talk about. And it can, you can be able to, you can encourage somebody with your story. You can give hope to somebody. We're meant to be in community with one another, and sex is such a big part of marriage, and that shouldn't be something that's only discussed between you two. And even if you look at, again, Song of Solomon, the friends talk about it. Like they're a part of the story. It's not just husband wife. Like they all know what's going on, and it's a part of the story.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's good. All right. If we love God, sex will automatically be great. I definitely thought that was my reward for being pure, not having sex until I got married. Well, perfect. Now things are going to be awesome. Wait a second. I don't know how to do this.
Yep.
Like anything else in life, it takes time and practice and effort
Yep.
and
Yep.
learning each other. I don't
Yeah.
know how to play pickleball still. And if you've listened, I've said this before. Still don't know how to play pickleball. And if I pick up a paddle, it's a paddle, not a racket.
Yep.
Cal gave me heck last time.
Oh,
If I pick up a paddle and try and play, I probably won't be a pro.
Yep.
It's just the odds are not for me in that way. So
Yep.
same with sex. If you pick up that paddle, if you try to have sex for the first time, it might not be the fireworks show that you see on Hollywood.
Yeah. Yeah. Another lie, sex is only for procreation. And I think we've already given you the verses and stuff to prove otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Straightforward.
Mm-hmm. And God isn't interested in my sex life. Again.
We've rebuted.
I think so.
Yeah.
And I think, like, thinking of the stories again, one of the things that I think helped, well, I think we can all say obviously helped to pivot the change was one, them like having a conversation.
Yep.
And two, them praying over their sex life together.
Yep.
And like bringing it to the Lord. Like,
yep. All of
that's
them.
the common thread, right? And so I think if you're like, man, I don't know how to change my sex life. I don't know how to mesh these two things together. Start with those two steps.
Yep.
Have some conversations and be like, hey, I know this might be weird. Maybe if you don't pray over your together ever, or if you don't ever pray for your sex life, yeah, sure, it might feel a little bit awkward at first, but be like, hey, this is really important to me. And I think this is something that will help benefit our sex life. So it is worth trying.
Yep. Yeah. And there's nothing to lose by doing that.
No.
Right?
No.
Yeah. No. And I think it also helps remember that you're a team again, you know, renewing those covenantal vows. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. If you are wanting to incorporate prayer more into your marriage, we have some prayer books, both for husband for praying for wife and wife for praying for husband. It isn't solely just about your sex life, but your entire life and marriage together.
Which, if you don't regularly pray for each other or pray out loud, this is a great practice to begin.
Yep.
To then get comfortable praying together. Because if you're like, hey, let's try and for this whole month, let's try to pray a prayer over each other every day. And even maybe you're like, we're going to, not that we have to do it together, but we're going to pray these prayers out loud.
Yeah.
When we read them, we got to say it out loud. And you don't have to say it to each other, but wherever you are in your house or whatever. Because I think, I don't know, we've said it before, or I have, atmosphere holds inventory. And so if you're praying into your space, I think it's powerful. So start there.
And I think it would be like totally good to, even if you're committing, say a whole chunk of time to pray for each other, that you do it out loud.
Yeah.
One goes first, then the other.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's nice because it's all scripted. So you don't have to feel awkward. I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not going to say the right thing. You can literally just keep it at that and start your day that way. Powerful. Yeah. Okay. And you know what? Holidays coming up. The love holiday.
The love one. Oh my goodness.
Normally we do like usually we do like a super spicy episode leading up to Valentine's, but because we're in our fundamental series, this one doesn't have too much spice, but
but it will. You do the things, but you get the spicy sex life.
Pray for it. But just wanted to let you know that we have our newest sex challenge out there called the Love Lab. So it's all about, doing experiments with each other.
Increasing the chemistry.
Yeah. It's a fun one. We'll also have last year's Valentine's sex challenge available too. That one is all about different
spicy, the red hot spicy.
I can't remember what we called it. There's different colors for the different levels. So it goes from, kind of mild, sexy to like wild. There's some some cool, fun experiment stuff to do. So
Red Hot Valentines, is that?
Yeah, Red Hot Valentines. That sounds right. Yeah. You think we would remember.
You think we'd know. But we don't know.
Yeah. Without looking it up ahead of time. So yeah, definitely recommend that to add some spice to your next Valentine's. Is coming up, so maybe surprise your spouse with it. That's gonna be fun. Or talk about it ahead of time. That would be good too. Yeah. The other thing too is you can always purchase it and do it later. Say you're in your postpartum thing, or you're getting over an injury or something. Doesn't mean you can't do it at another time. So, okay, just wanted to put a plug in there before we ended. So, okay, I will close this off in prayer. Lord Jesus, thank you that you created something so special for us in marriage, that an act that is not only fun and pleasurable, but also just brings us into deeper connection than any other thing that we could do in our marriage. And I just pray for those listening that have maybe excluded you from their bedroom, Lord, that they would feel encouraged to invite you in and to be praying about their sex life, whether it needs to be improved, or maybe even just how they can be a witness to you, witness for you to others in their sex life. I just pray that you will open everyone's eyes to how they can incorporate you and their sex life. Lord, thanks again for this wonderful gift. Amen.
Amen. Hey friends, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you like our content, please like, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts, and tell your friends too. Thanks so much for journeying with us today as we tackled the hard questions and dive deep into godly intimacy. Make sure you follow us on Instagram to see more of our content, and check the show notes for any links we might have mentioned in today's episode. We're so grateful to be on this journey with you, and we can't wait to see you in the next episode.